Hello, my name is Yahya Kaitan. I'm a freshman that attends the University of Minnesota. In today's podcast, I'll be answering my research question: does failure in the life of a student have value? Now, you may be wondering how failure could possibly benefit someone in an academic setting. At a very young age, we have been taught in schools that we should always aim for the highest grades, that we should be smart and strive to help better ourselves in the schools that we attend. Now, there isn't an issue with this, and it's a very reasonable expectation. But the problem that comes with this is that we have so much pressure put on us to succeed, and we eventually forget the impacts that failure could have on us. Failure is usually seen as something that is negative and disappointing. But my goal today is to change your mindset and make sure that you guys understand that we can, in fact, learn from failure and grow as students and citizens in our society. My research question came about because I wondered what we could possibly gain from failure. I believe that it's really important to succeed in school. I'm not advocating that students should attempt to fail or saying that failure will always help or create a shifting point. But what I do believe is that our approach in academics can drastically change after coming across failure. I faced failure in high school before and it helped me for the better. It changed my mindset and made me more focused and attentive. So in my sophomore year of high school, I had this one class. It was English 10, and it was a literature class primarily, so we read books. And in the first quiz of the trimester, we started off with a summary of a chapter that we had to read for a book. And I didn't end up reading it because I procrastinated. This led me to fail the quiz, and it was obviously really frustrating. I knew that I was going to fail because I didn't really do any studying, so it was kind of expected from me. But I wanted to hide my grades from my mother because I knew how she would have reacted to the grade that I received. Eventually, my mom did ask to see my grades, and I had to show her the grade. After I showed her, she was really disappointed in me. She got mad and told me that I wouldn't be able to play basketball for the remainder of the year. At the time, I was playing basketball for the school, and after my mom told me that I couldn't be playing basketball anymore, I realized how important school is and the impact that it could have on my future. So I started taking school a lot more serious, and since I had a lot more time on my hands, I made a turning point and decided to get my grades back up. So there are also many directions a student can take after failure. They could feel down and overwhelmed and cause more stress on themselves. This will only discourage a student and will affect their self-esteem. But they could also take another approach, which was the approach I took, and it is to figure out why you failed in the first place and make adjustments to combat it from happening again. So we have to make a reflection and realize why we failed and try to prevent it from happening again. Depends on how motivated the student is and how badly they want to succeed. I came across this one article that explains how academic failure can benefit us. The article is written by Henry Porter, who is an English author and journalist. He mentions how failure is beneficial and strengthens us. Without failure, there isn't an incentive to keep pushing forward. This motivation stems from a negative experience and makes us work harder. Porter states, what will count from the moment your education ends are energy, charm, curiosity, persistence, finishing strongly, and your willingness to defy orthodoxy. He's claiming that grades will only carry you so far in life, and the intangibles that are learned along the way are much more beneficial in the real world. These characteristics will help you succeed in whatever you aspire to accomplish in life. Alright, so let's dive right into the benefits of failure and the key takeaways. Although instantly we may be disappointed or frustrated from the outcome, it can help build character and make us stronger individuals. Everything in life won't come easy to us, and we have to struggle to achieve our goals. Expectations have a lot to do with grades and failure. Students that expect more out of themselves tend to earn better grades. This source will help further establish this point and prove how detrimental expectations really are. In an article by Science Direct, which was published in 2013, it displayed the difference in outcomes between students who had set expectations for themselves and students who hadn't set any. So students who indicated no aspiration to complete a school qualification were indistinguishable from those with low or moderate aspirations. And the analysis supported only two divergent groups comprising students with either low or high aspirations to complete qualifications. Aspirations were significantly related to different patterns of motivation, affiliation, and attributions predictive of academic achievement. So, what this source is saying is that students indic- who actually had aspirations in school that wanted to achieve better grades because they set goals for themselves usually did better than students who didn't really have any motivation or any factors that were pushing them to succeed in school. I'll be interviewing my sister Mutaz Keton, who is currently a junior at Apple Valley High School. She has a 3.9 GPA and has failed previously in order to get to this point. Okay, moving on to the first question. Have you ever been discouraged from failure in school?
I have many times, but the one time I can really remember was my AP biology class, which I studied really hard for a test, but I failed, and it was one of my first times with failure.
All right, so have any past experiences changed your attitude towards your academics?
That experience especially made me realize that the way I was studying and the way I was learning wasn't really helping me for tests, and it made me change my ways.
All right, so do you set expectations for yourself in school?
Absolutely. I always expect myself to get good grades in all my classes.
All right, and how do those expectations help you reach your target grades?
They make me motivated to do my work, and having a set goal is what drives me to do it.
All right, and another question is, what is your preferred method of learning?
I prefer being in person and in front of a teacher, and it's easier to learn that way.
All right, and do you think that different learning methods affect your ability to learn?
I feel like when we were online, it was a lot harder to learn because I wasn't able to get help one-on-one with my teachers, and that's kind of been hard.
All right, so last question is, did you use any coping strategies to recover from your failure?
The number one thing I did was just telling myself that I failed once, but that doesn't mean I'll fail every single time, and just trying to do better from then on.
All right, thank you so much.
No problem.
Expectations can be the defining factor on how well a student performs in school. It serves as a guide and helps the students stay motivated because they want to reach their goals. Now that I went over the benefits of failure and the importance of expectations, I'll talk about how student preferences affect their learning. Students have different preferred methods of learning. Sometimes a method of teaching can cause students trouble in a course and they end up failing because of that reason. This was found true when COVID first struck and we had to do distance learning. Some students like learning in person with a teacher present, and others prefer going at their own pace from home. This article shows the different circumstances that students do well in and the impact it could have on their ability to learn. In an article about factors of student failure published in 2020, it claimed that students struggle with different styles of teaching and not everyone is adept learning the same way. It shows that productivity went down when students shifted to hybrid learning. There wasn't a will to learn and students didn't take school seriously during this time. So when school went to distance learning, students didn't feel the need or urge to actually do any schoolwork because there weren't teachers in front of them. They didn't find it as serious, and that's why grades were dropping and the motivation to do school was deteriorating. Also, everyone learns differently and some students thrive in different situations. Some students prefer in person while others prefer online. This affects their mentality and attitude they have towards school. Now that I've covered how different approaches to learning can impact a student's motivation, ultimately cause failure, I'll show you how academic adversity shapes students. Academic adversity shapes students and helps them overcome difficult situations in order to do well in school. It instills resilience and perseverance and allows students to move forward. I personally have encountered a situation like this and have gained mental toughness when it was all said and done. After failing my first quiz in English class, I had to steadily build my grade back up. This was challenging because it takes a ton of patience to build a grade back up from rock bottom. I didn't end up playing basketball because of the situation, and I learned the severity of school from this moment. This experience changed me and made me work harder to reach the goals and expectations I set for myself. A study conducted also explained the difference between academic resilience and academic buoyancy. It was published by Martin A. in 2013. While also viewing this, I came across another popular article that was published by Waterford.org, which was released in 2019. This article demonstrates why failure is good for learning and why we should make students less scared of making mistakes. Martin claims that reflection is key when learning from mistakes. Making and correcting mistakes provides us with self-awareness on what we did right and what we need to improve on. He also claims that teachers should make their students overcome the fear of failure. Fearing failure leads to negative thoughts, which could alter your grades. School is really important for us all, and is beneficial in order to educate ourselves and the generations to come. However, it can be challenging at times and hard to sustain grades. This is why failure helps ensure that we change our mindset and work harder in school. All it takes is one moment of failure, and the reflection could divert you in the right direction. Hopefully, this podcast inspired you all and showed the different sides of failure. Failure is a hard pill to swallow and at times might discourage us. But the goal of this podcast is to use our failure and make a rebuttal and advance in our education. Never let failure dictate your future.